Again, why should we be aware of this? When we're arguing in front of our children, and sometimes we're caught up in the moment, or we're caught up in what is really we're angry about and not thinking about what's going on in our surroundings, it's affecting the children throughout the household, whether or not they hear it. And the research does show us that even if the children are not aware of the fight, or they can't hear the fight, but they're aware that it's going on, they feel just as much anger and sadness as if they're present in the room. And so we just need to be aware. We can't stop the argument, we can't prevent arguing. It's inevitable in couples. In fact, if they don't argue, it can even be a sign that there are more problems in the marriage. But when we're done, when we've walked away from it, we need to go check in with our children and make sure that they are heard, and to talk to them about what happened, see what's going on with them, and if we can, reassure them or help them to get over and understand that things happen, and to be there for them mostly. So I hope that everybody who listened in on this and got to comes away with some kind of information and something that might help them or give them something to think about, so the next time that they're faced with a similar issue, that they can respond appropriate to their children. So are there any questions?
Yes, I do have some questions.
Okay, Sam, what's up?
You said that children view resolved conflict as less angry. Can you give us an example of something they might hear that they interpret as resolving the conflict?
Well, we talked about apology and compromise, and those are both ways to resolve conflict. And so an example would be, you've had an argument with your spouse, and in fact, one of the stories that they talk about is they're discussing going to the movies. One of the examples in the videos that they're giving is they're discussing going to the movies, and she wants to see one movie and he wants to see another movie, and they get into an argument about it. And the two endings for the compromises, one was, okay, she says, okay, we'll just go see the movie that you want to see. That could be an example of a compromise. Because that's what you really... Oh, and the other one is, I'm really sorry we had this argument. I didn't want to ruin the evening, so why don't we just, pick a number and do whatever happens. And so those are two examples. And again, the apology of the two seems to have the best effect on children. So even though it's hard sometimes to say I'm sorry, and sometimes, it might, for the children's sake at the time, be the best thing to do for them. Any other questions?
You said that children respond differently to arguments based on age-related... I didn't get the last part. Or was it like maturation, or...
Okay, they do respond differently. As children, as they said, the highest level of sadness when children are watching their parents argue is 5. And as they mature and they get older, and it's not necessarily age-related, but it's maturity and cognitive level related, as they get older and they're able to see that they're, disassociate from it, understand that just because mom and dad are arguing doesn't mean everything's coming to an end. They're also able to say, this isn't necessarily my fault, or they were able to step out of, and as children mature and they're able to step out of themselves, theory of mind, they're able to understand that arguments have different endings and different reactions, and so the level of anger and sadness and fear as a reaction to those arguments decreases as they get older and they become more mature.
Okay, so you're saying theory of mind is related to responses?
Absolutely, because if you're having an argument and you're really young, then the children are so egocentric that they're going to they believe that everything is their fault. And as they get older, and theory of mind talks about being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So as a child grows older and they see what their parents are arguing about, be it a movie, be it budget, be it something else, who didn't do the laundry, they are able to step out of themselves and put themselves in their mother or their father's position. And when they're able to do that, you go, hey, I would have felt that way too, or I would feel attacked. And when they see that it's not related to them and it's not their fault, because they can put themselves in someone else's shoe, then their anger and their fear lessen. And also because their ability to understand time frames, just because the argument's happening right now doesn't mean tomorrow, it's going to be happening tomorrow too. They can understand tomorrow it's going to happen, and next week it may not be that big of a deal. So their ability to understand time also helps ameliorate the effects of an argument. So any other questions?
Yes, I actually do have one more. You said fear and anger at conflict reduces with age.
Yes.
So when would you like to see it? Like you said that at age 11 it is the most for boys, but as a young adult?
Probably the best. These studies didn't actually talk about it, but just based upon what we know about maturity, I would say, in all the classes that we all have to take and all the studying we have to do in child development, if a child is going to watch their parents argue, probably the best age would be emerging adult, which we're talking 18 to 21, because that's where they're probably still living at home, so they're going to see these things, but they're the most mature of all of this age that we're studying. And they're able to see things because they probably had a job, they've had some responsibility, they've seen things from different perspectives, they possibly have been in a romantic relationship. So all of those things that they've learned in their lives and the wisdom that they've seen, that they've been through up until that point, will help them to understand all of the factors that went into the argument, and therefore will probably have the least damaging effect on the child.
Okay, I just have one more comment, and
yes.
I just thought it was so interesting how hearing the fight is just as bad as viewing the fight,
yes.
And that it was important. I think this is something I could take away, is that you check in with your child when there has been a fight in the house.
Yes.
Whether or not you believe he heard or not.
Yes, and that's very important. And to let the child know, I mean, it comes down to it. Whether or not you resolve the argument, and hopefully at some point you do, because they aren't always resolved, and that's a realistic thing, is that you've gone to check in with your child, you've reassured your child that you love them, you've reassured your child this is not your fault, whatever's going on between mommy and daddy, we can work through it, and to make sure that the child has the least damaging effects as a result of the argument. So, and if there's any other questions? No?
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and I appreciate your time. Okay, well, again, I want to thank everybody for being here. Again, my name is Kim Gibson, and I have a lot of information for anyone who is interested. And as you're walking out, or if you want to just ask me a few questions, I'll be right over here. I have pamphlets with statistics and more information on arguing in front of children and the effects on them. And then also another pamphlet over here about the things that you can do to help to talk to your children, to calm them down, how to discuss arguing with them, and how to problem solve with them so that they can have an understanding of what's going on and that they're not walking away. So there's some really good information I have. Again, several pieces of paper. Please pick up as you're walking out. And I really appreciate everybody being here today, the time that you spent, and your attention and your questions.